questions he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm still in the process of doing my own evaluation of what's in front of us, but let me just ask, the President has shocked and worried many of us many times over the last 2.5 years. One of the more shocking things that he said recently was in response to the high number of undocumented immigrants that were showing up in New York and Boston, and to placate the mayors and governors of those political entities, he said he might institute a remain in Texas policy. Oh my God, how absolutely frightening. And clearly it's in response to, yes, our governor has been helping people, actually doing what the federal government was doing and putting people on planes and buses and getting them to the destination where they wanted to go. The the mayor of New York City complained that, I don't remember, he said he had 6,000 people. Oh my gosh. In Texas, we call that Tuesday morning. In the 2.5 years of this administration, well over 2 million people have entered the country illegally. Most of those have arrived in Texas, some in New Mexico, some in Arizona, fewer in California. But where they go from there is anyone's guess. Now, I tried to get the Secretary of Health and Human Services, when he came before our budget committee with his views and estimates on the budget, I asked him what he was prepared to do to help smaller communities, smaller municipalities, smaller school districts, smaller healthcare facilities in the state of Texas. What is he doing? What is he proposing to do to help them with what they will soon be facing? And he basically had no answer for that. He said there are intergovernmental arrangements that will take place. Well, I'm waiting, and I haven't seen them happen yet. And now that we have mayors and governors in other cities complaining about what Texas has been enduring month in and month out, literally every month of this administration, now it becomes a problem. So I'm concerned when I hear that there may be a prohibition on moving people out of one place to another. Is there something you can help me with to help me better understand that we will not be just requiring Texas to maintain control of those individuals just indefinitely?
Thank you for the question. And yes, I think we recognize that this is sort of a difficult conversation. The reality is that the administration should be actually instituting the Remain in Mexico plan. We are trying to, I think, look at how do we keep control of these individuals that are crossing into the United States illegally, and busing them or transporting them across the country actually causes some significant issues. And let me offer this up. According to the New York Times, the administration has lost over 85,000 children that they, under law, have a responsibility to care for. Now, whether they have transported them to some other state, we don't know. These are the questions that I think everyone is asking. The influx has certainly put dire straits on all of our social services, including in cities like New York, Arizona, and most certainly Texas. This crisis is costing our states $12 billion in New York this year alone. The ICE office is fully booked through October of 32. We have to try to find a way to stop this influx. And this is certainly one very small, minor way to sort of put a stopgap in place. And I want to, maybe just circle back around to a comment that Ms. DeLaura made initially about FEMA. FEMA funding is actually taken care of in here. If you look at the language that was put forward, we are allowing flexibility for FEMA to be able to spend up to their entire year's appropriation so that there is no question of taking care of services in these affected communities that currently have natural disasters. So with that, I yield.
Well, thank you for that answer. Mr. Joyce, Chairman Joyce, when you made the comment in your remarks, when you fail to enforce, more will come. And actually, I think very much that is true, but the opposite is also true. When you do enforce, you will reduce that pressure that is now existing on our southern border. And we know this because it's worked before. When the unprecedented influx of Honduran immigrants occurred in 2014, ironically 2 years after President Obama unilaterally instituted DACA, which sent the message down south that if you get here, you're going to be able to get in free. We'll give you a permiso and you'll be able to stay in the country indefinitely. What changed that equation was they began to send Hondurans back and Guatemalans back and Salvadorans back. And when they did that, the numbers plummeted. Now, they didn't keep it up, unfortunately. And I do recall there was some concern. You have a plane load of children who've arrived here without permission and you send them back. It does raise some questions of what's going to happen to them. And that's in 2014. That's President Obama. When President Trump put the Remain in Mexico policy, when it actually was up and running and working, it really did dramatically reduce the numbers. So we know what works. Now, unfortunately, this administration, and I mean, I don't know why they do some of the things they've done. It's almost like they deliberately are determined to hurt the country. But look, I was down at Fort Bliss in El Paso talking to Customs Border Patrol there, and they talked about the Remain in Mexico policy and how it had helped. But then shortly after the Biden administration came on board and they said they weren't going to do it anymore, and the courts told them they still had to, still the numbers were minuscule compared to what they had been 15, 18 months previously. That is when the Trump administration had instituted that policy. So in other words, they really had no interest in enforcing what the courts told them they had to continue doing until Congress changed the law. So forgive me for being so discouraged about what the administration has done. I hope and pray that you will be able to get the attention of the administration and make them understand that this is their problem and they have to fix it. The Vice President of the United States, perhaps in response to some of the criticisms that had come from here, said loudly and clearly, I'm talking to you in Central America, don't come. But then every action they take opens the door wider and they encourage more people to come. And then what do we see from this weekend? Bill Malusian, a Fox News reporter, with the film clips of that open train coming in from somewhere in central Mexico, bringing people in. That's the sort of thing that gets translated back downstream. The cartels take advantage of that, and it's so damaging to the people who take that risk to come here. I understand why they do it, but coming through the Darien Gap, oh my God, it's a human tragedy what is going on there, and this administration continues to fan the flames of it and to tell people to continue to come here, and we're not going to do a damn thing. So I hope you're successful with this. I do have some concerns about some of it, but we'll get you a rule, we'll get it on the floor, and we'll see what happens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back.
Dr. Burgess, I appreciate wholeheartedly what you're saying. And that's why I've been fighting to make sure that our full Homeland Appropriation Bill makes it here someday soon, and we can get those things in there, because there's no way you can say what this administration is doing is Christian, charitable, or in the best interest of those people they're encouraging to come here. We need to stand, what you talk about in 14, I remember with the meeting with the presidents of those countries at that time who said, we don't want to lose these people. These are our good citizens. We want to keep those people at home. Would the president tell them not to come? And President Obama, to his credit, started sending people back home there, which helped stem the flow and earned him the title of deporter-in-chief at times. And certainly the next administration did the same thing, put up the red light that it's going to happen. So with all the policies and procedures that we're going to put in place, going in with our funding bill, it still won't stem the tide unless this administration works to do those things. And why we're trying to do those things, it costs, we want to detain more people, we have to have more beds. We'll fund more beds. We want to make sure that those people who are here awaiting their disposition of their case are on means of alternative to detention. In other words, whether it's a phone or ankle brace or something, where they're communicated with and make sure that we know exactly where they're at. The transportation policy that we have in here will not allow people to be airdropped, if you will, into these communities without at least giving notice to these communities in the first place that they're sending these folks there. Because it's wrong what we're doing. It's not compassionate, it's not Christian, and we need to change the way we're doing this. And the only way we can do this is when we pass the whole Homeland Security bill, appropriations bill. But I understand there's some pieces and parts here that'll go in this one, because this is just buying us the 30 days so we can get on with the discussion to try to cure the problems that you've rightfully have brought up here. And I feel for you, for all Texans, for the problems that have existed.
Thanks, Chairman. I'll yield back.
Thank you. Gentleman from Massachusetts, distinguished ranking members, recognized for whatever questions he cares.
Well, thank you,
to
Mr.
pose.
Chairman.